Te Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, text 16. Nati ashnatastu yogosti nachaikantam anashnataha nachati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. So Krishna says, basically in the previous verses, Krishna talked about always engaging in Krishna consciousness, or it, for a yogi, always sees Krishna within the heart as Paramatma. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasaha. Always engaged in thinking about Krishna like this. So then the question comes, what about his other things like sleeping and eating? What about those? So in this verse, Krishna clarifies. For a yogi, na ati ashnataha tu yogaha asti. There should not be overeating. Ashnataha means eating. Ati ashnataha means overeating. Na ati ashnataha tu yogaha asti. It's not conducive for yoga. At the same time, na chaikantam anashnataha. Ekantam means very little. Anashnataha means abstaining from eating. Or basically, that also yoga is not possible. Eats too little or don't eat at all. Unnecessary fasting. Nacha ati swapna shilasya. If one eats too much, what will happen? Ati swapna. One will dream too much. One will sleep too much and one will dream too much. And the interesting thing Prabhupada says is, if one dreams too much, then one has to sleep too much. Otherwise, the body doesn't feel refreshed. So this is a very scientific understanding. So if you eat too much, then you'll have to sleep too much. Ati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva. If one don't sleep at all or sleeps too little, naiva, the yoga, it's not possible for a yogi. It's not conducive. So the translation is, there is no possibility of once becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. So this verse clarifies the regulation of diet and sleep, especially for yogis who are practicing this dhyana yoga system. That any yoga for that matter, any spiritual practice, there has to be regulation of eating and sleeping. So regarding eating, Prabhupada mentions too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. As they say, one should eat to live and not live to eat. So people who live to eat, they eat all kinds of things. They travel to different places, try different kinds of things for their palate, and which incurs a lot of sinful activities. The food is obtained by committing a lot of sinful activities, harm to innocent creatures. So that's why Prabhupada says in the purport, there is no need for men to eat animals. So the ati ashnataha means two things. One is overeating. Of course, it means overeating. Or it also means eating more than or eating beyond what is permitted for a human being. That is also called ati ashnataha. And that's what Prabhupada clarifies in the purport. There is no need for men to eat animals because there is an ample supply of grains vegetables, fruits, and milk. Such simple food stuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna mentions these foods in the mode of goodness later on in the 17th chapter. Ayuhu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara satvika priyaha. These are all, as Prabhupada mentions, these simple food stuff, vegetarian, grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk, considered to be mode of goodness. Animal food is for those in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, and eating food which is not first offered to Krishna will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. So then one may question, oh, I am not eating animal food. I am eating only vegetarian food, healthy food. Even in that, if you are not offering to Krishna, then you are eating sin. Yagnashishtasinah santo muchyante sarvakilbishaihi bhunjate te tu agham papa ye pachanti atmakaranat. Even vegetarian food, if you are eating without offering it in yagna, yagna doesn't mean you have to do a fire sacrifice and offer the food and grains. Yagna means offering for the pleasure of Krishna. Like you prepare nice meal and you offer it for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna accepts it. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham asnami prayatatmanaha bhakti upahritam. Offered with love and devotion, Krishna accepts the vegetarian food that we give. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. So if we don't do that, then even the vegetarian meal is considered to be Atma Karanat. We are eating for our sense gratification and there will be sin incurred. Because it involves a lot of even vegetarian food that we obtain from the markets involve a lot of damage to the vegetation, damage to the nature, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that one should eat prasadam offered to Krishna. So that is the point. The modern way is to eat irregulatedly. Forget prasadam. They will eat whatever they want. Sometimes my colleague, one of my colleagues, one time he asked me, where do you eat outside? No, I don't eat outside. No, what about when you travel? What do you do? Oh, we make arrangements. We take our own, whatever little thing that is needed, rice and some simple things. We cook. Or if there is a prasadam, there is a temple, then we go there and eat. Oh, your life is so difficult. So much. Your life is so much full of suffering, he says. Life is full of suffering. They think that eating anywhere and anywhere, everywhere, anything that they like without discrimination is enjoyment. Without understanding that every morsel they are eating only sin. They are thinking they are, for the taste of the tongue, they are eating whatever is available. But the Shastra is saying they are eating only sin. They have to pay for it. In one satsang I went, there was one man who asked a question about meat eating, and he was from a Christian background. So I said, even Jesus said, thou shalt not kill. And he said, no, I'm not killing. Somebody else is killing. I'm only purchasing the meat and I'm eating. I'm not killing. See, people, how ignorant they can be. That is why Manu Samhita, it covers all these people. One who kills the animal, one who orders to for that animal to kill, one who cooks, one who arranges for cooking, one who eats. So all this kind of thing. There are seven kinds of people who are involved, right from killing to that of eating. They're all culpable. They're all considered to be punishable. Just like when somebody murders somebody, the person who directly is murdering is ordered by somebody, is given money by somebody. That money, that person gets more sinful reaction or more punishment, isn't it? So if one is incurring sinful reaction, then there is no question of spiritual progress. One who is always, just like a person always suffering in the prison house, he is not free to do business. He cannot think properly. He has to always work hard. He cannot come out and work for the country, for his own business or family, for his progress. So, like that, we should not take more sinful reactions by irregulated eating. So, this is one side. The quality of eating. Ati ashnataha means quality of eating means eating Krishna prasadam, not anything else. And even within Krishna prasadam, what about irregulated eating? So, in our history, you see, Srila Prabhupada himself, when he came to the US, he would go to this Tompkins Square Park in New York and he would start to chant Hare Krishna mantra, Kirtan. And all these hippies, the youngsters, they would come and join and they would dance in their own ways and they would play musical instruments. And Prabhupada would lead them in the procession and back to the place, the storefront. And he would have prepared a good meal and he would feed them. And they would have never tasted that wonderful prasadam that was offered to Krishna, cooked by a pure devotee. And they would eat like anything. And Prabhupada would feed them like anything. And nice rotis, sabjis, rice dal, the gulab jamuns. And people were eating like anything. And Prabhupada was encouraging eating, eating. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see the devotees, they would nicely perform Sankirtan for hours and hours, beautiful Sankirtan, singing and dancing. And then at the end, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would personally have them sit and he would personally serve them huge quantities of prasadam. Jagannath Mahaprasadam in Puri, especially famous for distributing a lot of prasadam. So, if when one sees that, oh, what is this? Oh, Krishna is saying, oh, one should have regulation in eating, one should have regulation in sleeping, but why Prabhupada is encouraging this? Why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is encouraging this? See, what we should understand is that ultimately, when you go back to Godhead, there is no regulation. The yogis, they practice so much of austerity, but there is no need of austerity in the spiritual world. One who is diseased, he needs to get treatment from the doctor. But one who is free of disease, there is no treatment. He's enjoying life. So, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, they were all liberated souls. There is no comparison for us with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. But the point here is that if you want to overeat, you overeat Krishna Prasadam than non Krishna Prasadam. Because Krishna's Prasadam is mercy. Krishna, the remnants of food offered to Krishna is mercy of Krishna. So if you want to enjoy, you rather enjoy prasadam than non prasadam in the initial stages. So when one is filled more and more with prasadam, then one's purification happens. And then when one becomes advanced, one starts to think, yeah, I should also care for my body so that I can serve the spiritual master more and more. If one is able to do Sankirtan, sing and dance like how they were doing during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, you can have as much prasadam as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeding. But now, in this day and age, people are more conscious because they cannot digest what they are eating. Because there is no physical activity. It is only sitting activity, mental activity. So, prasadam also has to be, in terms of quantity, it has to be regulated. But in the initial stages, the spiritual master encourages. You can relish Krishna prasadam as much as you want, as many varieties as you want. And that's what Prabhupada was doing. When one time Prabhupada went to Malaysia, so there was one Indian gentleman and he was hosting them. And his wife was born in Mathura and she was an expert cook. And so Prabhupada was taking massage and he was called after his bath. He was called for prasadam and he chanted the Gayatri mantra and sat for prasadam, and the disciples left because they wanted Prabhupada to be served by the host nicely. And so the disciples were waiting outside. And suddenly they heard Prabhupada call one of the disciples' name, and they just hurried inside. What was the matter? And then Prabhupada said, "You call all, bring all the devotees." And they all came in. And there was this host and his wife, and Prabhupada was honoring prasadam. And they were all wondering, oh, we might have committed some offense or something. So Prabhupada, he lifted a nice kachori, beautifully made flying saucer shaped kachori in the air, and he took a bite out of it, and he handed one to one disciple and asked him to eat the same. And it was so soft and wonderful, and the crust melting in the mouth, and the urad dal filled, spiced, just right, and this Mataji is from Mathura, and they know how to do it. This kachori is the speciality of Mathura and Vrindavan, and favorite of Krishna. And so Prabhupada was in ecstatic mood, and he ordered the disciples, you should learn how to make kachoris from this Mataji. And Prabhupada, he was beaming and he declared at that time, you know, I'm going back to Godhead only so that I can eat these kachoris with Krishna. So everybody was smiling and laughing with that statement, which is actually true that in the spiritual world, there is only enjoyment. In Krishna Kant, in the material world, the true enjoyment of the spiritual world, unadulterated, unrestricted, there is no limitation, restriction, pure enjoyment in the spiritual world. We can only have that in the material world through Krishna consciousness movement. Nowhere else we can have that kind of enjoyment. We can be completely confident whatever we are eating is free of sinful reactions. Whatever we are acting is free of sinful reactions because we are acting for Krishna. Because Krishna is protecting us, whatever we are doing, all services. Whereas others, while eating, they are in anxiety. While working, they are in anxiety. While doing business, they are in anxiety. How much I will make loss, how much I will make profit. Only in Krishna consciousness, there is no anxiety. Only in Krishna consciousness, there is a glimpse of the spiritual world. So, when we honor prasadam, every time we sing this prayer in the temple, you might have seen. Sharira vidya jal jodendriya tahe kal. Mahaprasade govinde nama brahmani vaishnave. Swalpa punyavatam rajan vishwaso naiva jayate. The glory of Mahaprasadam is described. This prasadam, by eating, this body is purified. Sharira, this body is considered the Sharira, is avidya jal, it's full of illusion. And the senses, they are getting attracted to different sense objects and are dragging us to death. Jodendriya tahe kal. And in this way, the jiva is floating and being tossed around in these waves of material existence. And especially that among the senses, Tara Madhye, in the middle of the senses, Jihva, this tongue, Ati Lobhomay, is very, very greedy and voracious and wicked. So Durmati, because of tongue, we commit so many sinful activities. So in order to control the tongue, Krishna, Bado Doyamoy, being very merciful, in order to conquer the tongue, he gave his Swaprasada Anna Dilobhai. He has given the remnants of his own food, prasadam. And that is considered Annamrita. Say Annamrita Pavo. Take that Annamrita, Radha Krishna Gunagao, and chant the holy names of Radha Krishna. And in love, call out the names of Chaitanya Nitai. See how wonderful. We get purified by having prasadam and we become ecstatic in love of God. How wonderful this Krishna consciousness movement is. And automatically, by following the regulations of Krishna consciousness, our health also improves. Like we have these appearance days of the Lord or acharyas, where we are asked to fast till noon or till evening, or ekadashis, we are asked to fast every 15 days. So this is a cyclic reset of the body. So the body needs break so that it can cure itself and it can refresh itself. It's like a machine. The machine needs a break so that it again gets rejuvenated. Servicing is done and all that. So these are periodic days where regulation is automatically inbuilt. So by following the scripture, everything is automatically followed. The regulation is automatically followed. If you don't follow the scripture, sometimes people they invent their own mechanism. That's what Krishna is referring to. Anashnataha, fasting unnecessarily. They pick up one day, oh, today I am fasting. For what reason? Whatever reason. They don't know why they are fasting. Not prescribed in scriptures. Irregulated. It has to be regulated. Otherwise, it is not really, maybe it will be of material benefit to you, but it will not, anything which is not done per scriptures, ultimately, even materially also, it will not be beneficial for you. So, the point is, Krishna consciousness offers regulated eating, and if you have regulated eating, then regulated sleeping. Prabhupada mentions that one should In the beginning stages, ultimately, like the Goswamis, Acharyas, they would not sleep at all, hardly 1 or 2 hours. They would not eat much. Like Prabhupada was not eating at all during the end of his pastimes. So we cannot imitate that. So we have to eat as much as it is required for our health. And even sleeping, one should not oversleep or undersleep. So Prabhupada talks about one should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. So, of course, this is a lofty standard to come to. So, one should not artificially imitate. Naturally, one should, when they follow these principles of Krishna consciousness, when they take association of devotees, when they serve the spiritual master, naturally, these instructions become revealed in the heart. One becomes inspired. So, one should not artificially take up things which are not long term sustainable and which might break us. So, our long term sustainability in Krishna consciousness is important. The important thing is to chant the holy names, and other things get adjusted. Like how Prabhupada was encouraging the devotees, the hippies. He did not ask them to stop eating meat right away. He only gave them positive things. You chant the holy name, you eat prasadam. And naturally, as they got purified, they gave up all these sinful habits and regulated their habits, even regulated their eating. And Krishna reveals gradually. Let Krishna reveal gradually. But from our side, we only focus what I can do more in Krishna consciousness, chanting and services, and those kind of things. So I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Sadhar Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, in today's lecture, you mentioned that in spiritual world, everything is happiness. But in Bhagavatam and all, we hear some of the stories where Daksha, many other places where they got cursed, and then after so many years, once they are touched by the lotus feet of the Lord, then they got relieved. So, but they are all in the spiritual plane. So why do they get those kind of curses even in spiritual world then?
No, firstly, Daksha, the incident, that did not happen in the spiritual world. That was in this material world.
Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe like in some other stories, maybe like even in spiritual world there are curses happening, right?
No, spiritual world, there is no curse. But when the Lord wants certain things like Jaya Vijaya, the Lord wanted to go to the material world and engage in fighting. In the spiritual world, who will fight with him? Nobody will fight with him. So he influenced these Kumaras to curse Jaya and Vijaya so that they can come to the material world and they can act as a big demons and the Lord can fight with them. So the Lord has a propensity to fight, mock fight. But who is not? Nobody is ready. So the Lord orchestrated that. So, except that kind of situations, there is no cursing going on in the spiritual world, but in the material world, there is. Like a devotee can be cursed. Like Chitraketu, he was cursed by Mother Parvati. Narada was cursed by Daksha, that he will never have a fixed residence. Chitraketu was cursed that he will become a demon, Rutrasura. So that curse happens in this material world, but a devotee, because he is always protected by Krishna, even when he is cursed, Krishna protects the devotee. Like Rutrasura, he became a demon, but Krishna protected him and brought him back to Godhead at the end of his life. And Narada Muni used that curse for preaching. Okay, that is advantageous for me. I don't have fixed residence. I'll go around and preach to everyone and anyone. So curse is because devotees are transcendental to material existence. So none of that will affect the devotee.
How about the Leela in Damodar? There in Damodar Leela, there are two trees, right?
Hmm.
So that also happened in the spiritual world only, right? Not in the material world. Those
No,
two,
that happened in this planet.
Nalagriv and
No, that did not happen in the spiritual world. That happened in this
okay,
when Nalakuvara and Manigriva, they were in the heavenly planets within this universe,
oh, okay.
and they were cursed
And
by
Prabhuji,
Narada
I
Muni.
heard one more story of Tulsi Maharani, where she got down by the curse of Radharani.
No,
Um,
I haven't heard. I'm not sure if that is bona fide.
okay. Um, yeah, I heard in some lecture though, like she was doing some service and she fainted, and then Krishna holds her, and then Radharani curses her, and then there was a devotee who was mad at Radharani for cursing her, and then then he also got a curse, and then Gandaki story happens, and that's how they come to this material world to be born as Tulasi Maharani. I don't know. I
No,
heard that story,
no,
so I
I
thought it
haven't
happened in
heard.
the spiritual world.
No, I haven't heard. But as I said, if there is a cursing going on, it must be orchestrated by the Lord for a particular purpose.
Okay. But in spiritual world, you are saying there is none of this will be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari